it. It's like I'm now live. Three, two, one, live. Um, Chair, easel, water, spilled water already. Interviewer, Charles Baldwin. Live, Charles Baldwin. Okay, you're in charge. Okay.
Okay, so we're taking over the camera, giving it a good view. This is Charles Baldwin. I am a Brick Bottom resident. You can't see me, but I'm an old white guy with beard, glasses, and a mohawk. You can often find me smoking out front. I do keep that addiction front and center, unfortunately. Calling in from Brick Bottom, Somerville, ancestral lands of the Nipmuc and Massachusetts people, and excited to be watching Pier draw. So, what are you drawing, Pier?
Well, I know that there are architects in the world that love showing how beautiful their buildings are when they're brand new, but they're not nearly as attractive, I think, as the drawings of buildings that are coming down, or buildings that are coming down. And this building is one that has been coming down over the last month or so, and I didn't even come out here to look at it until this last week. So I've been way late, having a lot of fun.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, you described the buildings going up and down, and perhaps you can even hear the construction noises in the background on our Sunday, April, whatever day it is. So there's things going up and going down all around this little island of Brick Bottom.
This paradise, this island paradise. Take that, Gilligan's Island.
Okay.
We've got the professor and Marianne and buildings coming down. So
It was maybe not a 3 hour tour, maybe a 3 decade tour. And then suddenly Somerville discovered the basin of Brick Bottom.
So it's, and what will go up in this location will be not nearly as attractive as what is existing right now. They should just put a little plaque saying flux, neighborhood flux,
Driven by the creative energy that's been here for a while. And I guess that's the Sunday morning interview, as you are sitting here quickly sketching out. But your workspace also has watercolors. So
at some point I will do that. But first I'm going to I'm trying monochrome first, just because that's I think in black and white and monochrome anyway.
Well, that kind of defines the depth of the space too, because what you're drawing, I mean, for me, just looking at the space, not necessarily following your brush, but this removal of the building has sort of revealed to me this giant space, and this giant space is now filled with piles of sort of collected debris.
What was once a building is now in a pile.
Yes.
Sometimes they've been divided into the elements. There's bricks in one pile. There's cinder blocks in another pile. There's conduit and aluminum roofing.
The rebar pile, the sort of the poisonous waste pile. No, I like how orderly it is. It satisfies my brain.
The wood pile, the actual wood pile, and so one of the things that we all learned excitedly as they took this thing down is that behind the relatively modern corrugated aluminum and steel beam and cinder block building was this brick building.
Yeah, hidden right up against the train tracks there.
So it's probably 100 years old, and like our building, a building of brick and cement, and in this case older because it had wood floors and wood elements to it that our building didn't have, although our building is from the 20s. So
Yeah, it was fascinating. I have a view from my own studio up here at Brick Bottom, and it was fascinating to see it be revealed. This brick, sort of this low, long brick building, hugging what is now the train tracks, but tracks have been running alongside here for many, many moons. So
yeah,
definitely
years.
train architecture.
These were this door here, for example, exited to, I suspect, a platform for a train, and trains coming into Boston or going away from Boston, I don't
Yeah.
know, or both. I guess a train can go.
Well, I think when it was built, this was considered more of the country than Boston.
Okay.
Now it's greater Boston area here in Somerville. So, but yes.
So, um, what am I trying to show in my drawing?
Yeah, what are you showing us in your drawing? That nice lead, Pier.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out myself. I love chaos, but I like seeing order in the chaos. So the order are these all of the parts of the original building are parallel rectangles right now.
Yeah.
And all of the parts that used to be the building are acute and obtuse and different kinds of angles. So even though this view in front of me, maybe you can show the view as well, is looks chaotic, except it isn't. Even if the junk wasn't in neat segregated piles, it would still be not as chaotic as you think, because there is the overall verticality and horizontality of what made the building. So most of the vertical supports like this are vertical, in fact vertical. Some are a little tilted because of the trauma that the building has been dealing with these big excavators clawing away at it. And but the cement foundation of the building, the newer building, which is right here, is also horizontal and rectangular. So,
But it's wide, man. That's the thing. So on your little piece of paper, this flat piece of paper, as you're defining the spaces, I can't help but think about the footprint of the old corrugated building, broken but yawning out of the space. I know from my view, I can see that water has collected in a particularly low spot. There's a cement foundation that isn't consistent with the entire footprint, but it's a big space. And I love that excitement of trying to capture space on 2D. This is why I love drawing. I love to see how that can be caught.
now, do you draw? We'll just use the word realistically, just for shits and giggles. You draw.
Excuse me while I laugh, and the YouTube screen bounces.
You draw. You draw the figure, and you do magnificent drawings of the human form, and you.
Well, and it's interesting because a lot of that comes from I worked for years and years and years as a costumer. So fashion adjacent, but not fashion meaning like a hierarchy of the body, more of the character of the body. And so
costumer for theater.
For theatrical productions,
Yeah,
yes. And done that for years and years and years and years. And as I moved into, management, got to get a job, that drawing of the figure, that sketching of character is definitely something that I continue. And then, of course, in the Great Sheltering, now I'm drawing from, online life classes, or I'm currently, cutting up all my recycling into collages. So, but
Can we say what your recycling was originally?
well, mostly gay porn.
Okay, thank you.
That's exactly. That's just the way. A collection. I've was living with a pornographer, and there was just a lot of old magazines. This is my favorite: is to talk about the paperweight of old porn, because the paper is so high glossy and heavy. It makes a great collage. You can really cut at it and get a form that'll bounce off the paper. But
Well,
yes.
yes. So, changing the subject back a little bit to your your work as a costumer, I would imagine that, unlike a fashion designer who creates something for a different purpose, you are doing it for the stage, and you're doing it so that, I imagine, you had to design things that could be seen from the cheap seats. So you had
Well,
to,
depending on the costume, certainly.
well, but I would think that you could, be theatrical in sort of size, and the lapels would be bigger even than the fashion of the real world, maybe,
Well,
or some things like that.
well, right. You would
Colors would be
certainly
colorful.
might add a little bit more bedazzlement,
Dazzling.
so that there was it resonated under lights against the scenery, and was part of the character.
Yeah.
I mean, what I liked about designing costumes in a theater environment was that the collaborative nature of it. I might come up with a design, the director approves, casting occurs, scenic elements get created, lighting happens, and costumes in that context, along with all the other pieces, will continue to adjust as they sort of merge and synchronize with each other. Um, anyway,
Well, that's
it's
I
chaos. I mean, we're talking about chaos and order. So often, all of these pieces may seem orderly, and when they first come together, it can be chaotic. But what happens when everything gets in sync? That's that's what you want.
um,
So,
I hope I'm not hitting you with my brush lapping.
well, it's your phone,
Okay.
so any spattering on the lens is it's your phone. I'm only holding it in 3 spots that you can wipe down after I get it back to you.
We'll be fine. I like your term for, what did you call it? Sheltering in place.
Oh, the Great Sheltering.
The great sheltering. I like that.
Yeah, I just feel like we've been in a great sheltering, and now it's year one. All my calendars have changed. How I consider time is different.
Well, I have. I like animation. I'm throwing a different theatrical thing in.
Yeah.
I like animation, but the thing that I really don't like about it is the the sometimes the old animations like Popeye or Betty Boop, their voices were equally twisted and exaggerated, whereas like The Simpsons, they're not exaggerated.
Well,
They're
actually, The
just
Simpsons are. I would disagree with you. I would say the Simpson voices are greatly exaggerated, which is why you can have 4 people or 5 people
that's true.
doing all of them.
I guess that's true.
They have a lot of guest stars who are themselves. But animate cell animation very different than digital animation, and how it. Um, I always think of celluloid as luscious, and even in the lightest of things, there's still that quality film as a tactile experience, and not just the story it's telling you.
I'm
Okay,
trying to think. Well, like like South Park, for
like
example. South Park is so cut out and collage like, but the voices aren't. I mean, I would think the voices would also be sort of snipped together. But again, I have an issue.
Yeah,
I
I'm sure there are
I
plenty of
have many
issues,
issues. I have many issues.
but it's not the peer therapy time. It's the
Oh, I see. I see.
Chuck and Pier interview
I see.
on
Okay.
the destruction of the building across the street from Brick Bottom and
Well,
how
look at
you're
this. Why can't I
capturing
just
that.
sign this and say this is done?
I
The
like
whole
the
thing.
who was the artist who would draw money and then
Oh,
say it was valued at that.
yeah. I don't remember
I
his name. It starts
can't,
with a B.
yeah, and at the end of dinner, he or she, I can't even remember,
It's a he.
he would give them
He would say, "Would you take this for
this
the
painting of $100 bill
for
as $100, the
or
value of a hundred
or
dollars.
for the dinner I had?" I don't know if he may have done it for the actual amount, and he was arrested.
Yeah, well, I
Of
was going to
course,
say that's why I think it was the actual amount,
yeah.
because it wasn't this painting is valued at 101. I don't know.
But
Um,
he never pretended that they were fake.
right. It
They
was always art.
they was always art that he was trading for. And my favorite forgery story, if I can throw this in,
Oh,
was
please.
was and this one was the FBI and the TCA or TG, whatever they were, tobacco, alcohol, and firearms. I think they were part of
Oh,
it, or
yeah.
the Secret Service. I forget. Some weird group was part of the forgery people.
I
And
would imagine that, in following the Gardner heist and the sort of unpacking of the FBI in Boston during a certain era, I'm like, oh, yeah, everybody knew each other.
well, anyway, the I'm going to try watercolor.
Yeah, well,
Same scene, but
I'm coming
we're
back
going
to
to see
your
if this even works. Now, as you can see, if you looked at the actual thing in front of you, it's all pretty variations of gray and with a little bit
well,
of
and
flesh
what
showing
we're
in
seeing is almost like a high contrast.
there.
Um,
But there's a bit of yellow and another bit of yellow that I'm making to orange.
I'm hiding behind the no trespassing sign, trying to have good light here.
That doesn't say no trespassing. I'm sure it doesn't mean us.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, no, that's for other people.
we're on the public
This,
thoroughfare. Um, but anyway, so whoever was in charge of trying to figure out who the counterfeiter was, the FBI, they were on this case forever, and they were $1 bills that were counterfeited and used all over New York City and the boroughs. But there'd be one year, and then maybe two the following year, and then a decade would go by where there wasn't any, and then there was one
huh,
elsewhere. And they could not figure out, first of all, why go through the trouble of
doing
giving out
$1
a one
bills.
dollar bill, and why do it so infrequently. And so they, got on the trail, couldn't find any common thing, to help find the criminal. And the reason that the bill was real, the bills were really good, except that Washington was spelled wrong.
So
They forgot the T or something.
the
And
cameraman laughs, and
um, so
I love
it
that.
it it was just befuddling to everyone. And years went past, and they still didn't catch this guy. But they stopped being circulated, so they figured, the guy died or whatever. But it was still an open case because it had never been discovered. Well, in a vacant lot, uh, kids found a little printing press and the plates that went
Ah,
to making this. And they brought it to the police department. The police department saw what it was, and they contacted the ESB or whoever they were. And um, they discovered that there had been a fire in the building next door to this vacant lot, and that was where the counterfeiter had lived. And he threw his printing press out the window to save it, and he never went back to retrieve it. But they found the guy,
oh, they did.
and
Okay.
the guy said he took in stray dogs from the city and would feed them, and he would buy food. Anytime he needed to buy food for the dogs, he would use his counterfeit money.
Okay.
So I think he should get a Nobel Peace Prize or something for his good deeds he was doing, don't you think?
Well, it's so interesting because right now it seems like they're just printing up money. This idea of the gold standard is certainly gone. So, in considering the value of the bills that this guy was printing up and what he was doing with them, and that there was a spelling mistake. So, in a way, he's like,
Thumbing his nose at
exactly.
capitalism.
And people who just like take the dollar bill, a dollar bill. What do you think is going to happen to tactile money?
Well, tactile anything for that matter.
Yeah, there's that.
I don't know. So should I stick with black and white?
Well,
Am I learning anything by using my limited palette? I miss the sharp little when I watch watercolorists on YouTube and watch their demonstrations, I am amazed at how well they can get what they're getting at without a lot of detail, and then they throw a little bit of detail in later, and it just all snaps together. And I don't know how to do that. I feel I need to do more details all along, and then I get trapped, and then I put my easel away and my watercolors away and wait for another 10 years to do it. But I don't know.
it's again that capturing of space with the different tools. I'm not so good with the
Oh no!
Oh dear!
What happened?
You've made a donation.
My drawing is beyond the neutrals. It's in no man's land.
You actually are such a provocative artist that you have. I'm going to put my art behind closed doors.
Yeah. Well, I'll see. I'll be here tomorrow and see if the workers can.
Well,
we need to get a leaf blower, and I could blow it over there.
Well, I'm thinking that it's windy enough on its own that it might just end up in a corner that you can reach. Some of these spaces look big enough that a child could crawl through. We'll get one of the kids to do it.
Well, let's do this. Let's go back. Let's aim the camera at you now. So now you guys have. Oh, we may have entirely been upside down, but that's okay. Hello.
Morning.
Because you were holding it like this.
Yeah.
The thing might be vertical, but that's okay.
Well, we were talking about chaos and order.
We were.
And I was going to represent it in the digital square that we've all become so used to.
Well, and my battery low power just came on. So what I'm going to do is have you say goodbye. And this is yet another example of what we can do on the Brick Bottom YouTube channel.
Generating Brick Bottom community, one digital live stream at a time.
One brick at a brick face. One brick
I know,
face.
there's something about the brick face that I do still kind of like.
Well, face brick, brick face.
Well, I was thinking about Facebook too because of Facebook.
Yeah. But anyway, this is how it worked. And, we'll see you all later. Bye.